The facts shown here may appear to be a historical collection of atrocities performed by autocratic regimes in the 20th century, or perhaps a scenario envisioned by writers of dystopian narratives, such as 1984 by English novelist George Orwell. But sadly, our topic today is current and may worsen over time if nothing is done. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea, the official name of North Korea, is the scene of numerous scandals regarding its political regime. These scandals can only come to light through reports from defectors who manage to escape with their lives, or from reports by NGOs and even the United Nations. Most of the time, these entities also rely on these accounts due to the lack of communication and transparency imposed by government censorship. This isolation has worsened considerably following the restrictions resulting from the global pandemic, in which international and even domestic flights were drastically reduced. Due to the restricted communication channels imposed by the dictatorship, the country's information access was further limited, which in turn reduced the international visibility of the long-standing brutal acts that take place there. Since 1949, the Kim family has historically controlled North Korea's autocratic government, which operates in a manner similar to a succession of monarchs. Following his father's death in 2011, Kim Jong-un, the nation's current political leader, assumed the role of head of state. As we reflect on these facts, it is an opportune moment to remind you that deep and enlightening discussions like this are frequent on our channel, A Brain Outside the Box. Be sure to subscribe and activate the notification bell to stay updated on critical analysis of important topics. Now, let's continue unraveling the layers of this regime. 2019 saw the most recent national elections to choose the Supreme People's Assembly, which serves as the legislative power's representatives. A fully democratic reality would not allow for 100% of eligible voters to participate in the voting process, or 100% of them to support candidates who had already been pre-selected and approved by the government. Nevertheless, the voting was far from free or fair, and was closely watched by the government. The Ministries of Social Security and State Security, as well as the Military Security Command, make up the internal security apparatus, which is the body responsible for population control and state defense. The authorities and responsibilities of each of them to stop and keep an eye on potential insurgent movements originating from within the party leadership routinely overlap. In addition, the judiciary is organized into 3 levels, with the central court at the top, provincial courts in the middle, and people's courts at the bottom. Following the model adopted in the former Soviet Union dictatorship, the Central Court, which is the highest instance, has its judges appointed by the Supreme People's Assembly itself, which, as we have seen, is fully controlled by the central figure of the regime, another classic characteristic of autocratic government models. After this brief illustration regarding the structure of the political organization in North Korea, we will point out some effects that arise from despotic systems, such as Kim Jong-un's, and alert to the consequences of threatening democratic regimes worldwide. The restriction of freedom is among this dictatorship's most evident effects, and here we are discussing freedom in all of its forms, including the freedom of speech, thought, travel, and information. For a government that seeks to uphold the status quo, having individuals who are capable of critical thought, self-education, cross-cultural awareness, and open communication, and who are diverse in their behavior, identity, and worldview is extremely dangerous, especially for those who will stop at nothing to hold on to power and advance their beliefs. So, everything there is extremely regulated and controlled, including scarcity, as abundance in the economy could bring undesirable effects. That's why most investments are made in government infrastructure projects that somehow serve the regime, besides, of course, investing disproportionately in the military market, which serves both internal maintenance and protection against external threats that could disturb sovereignty. As a result of the market being controlled by scarcity, there is still the intentional maintenance of population poverty through distorted communist practices. The population receives their salaries and rations, which are limited portions of food, in a completely arbitrary manner. Even the privileged individuals in high positions or party members receive little, although still significantly more than the majority of the people who suffer from starvation. In actuality, the government controls all resources, including electricity. The country appears completely dark from satellite photographs, Whereas cities in China and South Korea seem to be well lit, the elite of the populace, concentrated in Pyongyang, is the only place where the few with access to resources live. Wintertime rationing is made worse, as millions of people must fight to survive in bitterly cold weather. Many of these restrictions against North Koreans are in line with the caste system, which was instituted in 1957 by the country's then dictator Kim Il-sung, and continues to this day. In fact, these unfair penalties, which are well known for being consistently criticized by human rights organizations, will be covered in more depth in a moment. 3 categories of North Korean citizens exist: the hostile, the wavering, and the core class, or loyalists. The vast majority of those living in Pyongyang are loyalists, those with a family history of supporting the state and its principles through wars and revolutions. The folks who are wavering are those that the government neither supports nor opposes. Usually they are members of foreign mercantile families who did not overtly resist the dictatorship, nor did they actively fight to build it. The people that are considered hostile are those that the government punishes the worst because, among other things, their forefathers disobeyed political ideals, attempted coups against the government, and held forbidden religions like Christianity. They are denied access to jobs, education, and resources in general. On top of that, they face harsh penalties that are meted out over many generations. You must be wondering, is that right? Are people punished for something their grandparents or great-grandparents did without necessarily doing anything themselves? That's right. This can happen due to the stratification in castes that naturally segregates people based on their family lineage. The same happens with descendants born in concentration camps who, from birth, are destined to pay for crimes they never committed. This is due to the government's claim that they have been tarnished by their forefathers' honor and blood. And yes, I did say concentration camps, in case you missed it. Those who rose to prominence with another autocrat in a different authoritarian government of the previous century. I'm sorry to break the good news to those who believed that humanity would have learned from its mistakes and that this was a thing of the past. The structure of North Korea's concentration camps is eerily similar to that of the camps in Germany during World War II. The only distinction is that under Kim Jong-un's rule, it is his own people who are subjected to some of the cruelest forms of punishment in human history. There are a variety of reasons for this, including those who disagree with the state, defectors, individuals who hold different opinions, and in short, offenses that they view as extremely serious. As we have shown previously, it is still possible to find in these locations people who are considered to be of no service to the regime, including women, children, and people with physical or mental problems, especially if they have a tarnished history. So what are the atrocities produced in these places? History already tells us a lot about it, but some examples are disproportionate torture that can last for days, food rationing that leads people to death by starvation, medical, chemical, and biological tests and experiments for supposed scientific advancement, public and brutal executions that serve as an example, and warning to those who at least consider opposing the party's ideals. And until when is this? Even after so many examples from the past, will we never learn from our mistakes? In your opinion, what is the role of the international community in this matter? What do you think? I'll be here until next time.